January 11th, 2013. Valdosta, Georgia. Inside a high school gym, a discovery was made that would ignite years of questions, investigations, protests, and pain. A 17-year-old student, Kendrick Johnson, was found dead. His body was discovered upside down inside a rolls-up gym mat. Authorities said it was a tragic accident, but Kendrick's family and supporters believed it was something far darker, a murder and a cover-up. Over a decade later, this case still divides a community and confuses the nation. This is the story of Kendrick Johnson and the mystery that refuses to fade. Kendrick Johnson was a junior at Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia. Friends described him as quiet, athletic, and ambitious. He loved sports, especially football, and dreamed of one day playing professionally. He wasn't a troublemaker. He wasn't the type to seek drama. To most people, Kendrick was just a regular teenager trying to build his future. On January 10th, 2013, he went to school like he always did. He attended classes, joked with friends, and spent time in the gym. That night, his parents expected him home, but Kendrick never returned. When his mother couldn't reach him, she knew something was wrong. The next morning, she went to the school herself, desperate for answers, but nothing could prepare her for what would come next. Later that day, around 10 in the morning, students entered the old gym. Among the rows of tall, rolled-up wrestling mats, one stood out. From inside, someone noticed a pair of socks. Curious, a student climbed the nearby bleachers and looked down. What they saw made them scream. Inside the mat, head first, was the body of Kendrick Johnson. He was upside down, trapped inside the narrow tube of the rolled mat. His face was swollen. Blood had pooled around his head and shoulder. Teachers rushed to the scene, calling 911. Paramedics arrived quickly, but Kendrick was already gone. Within hours, the gym was taped off and the investigation began. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office led the case. Their early conclusion was that Kendrick's death was a tragic accident. Here's how they explained it. Students often stored their shoes or gym clothes inside the rolled mats to keep them off the dirty floor. Investigators theorized that Kendrick dropped one of his shoes inside a mat standing vertically. Trying to retrieve it, he allegedly climbed up, leaned in, slipped, and became trapped head first. The mat was about 6 feet tall, with an opening just 14 inches wide. They said Kendrick struggled, couldn't breathe, and slowly suffocated, what's called positional asphyxia. To investigators, there were no signs of a struggle, no clear injuries suggesting an assault. They called it an accident. Case closed. But Kendrick's family refused to accept that explanation. From the very beginning, Kendrick's parents, Kenneth and Jacqueline Johnson, believed their son had been killed. They questioned how a healthy teenage athlete could get stuck in a mat that tight. They asked why blood was found on the gym wall nearby, and they wanted to know why school cameras didn't clearly show what happened. To them, something didn't add up. They pushed for an independent investigation, and that's when new and controversial information began to surface. In May 2013, the Johnson family exhumed Kendrick's body and hired a private pathologist, Dr. William Anderson, to conduct a second autopsy. His report contradicted the state's findings. He concluded that Kendrick died from blunt force trauma to the neck and jaw, not suffocation. He believed the injury suggested an assault. But there was more. During that second examination, the pathologist discovered something shocking. Kendrick's internal organs were missing, and his body cavity had been filled with newspaper-like material. The family was outraged. How could a vital part of evidence just be gone? Officials explained that during autopsy procedures, organs are sometimes removed for testing and may not always be returned before embalming. The funeral home that handled Kendrick's body said the organs had been disposed of by the medical examiner and that the filler material was standard practice. Still, to Kendrick's parents, it felt like tampering, like evidence had been destroyed. Their trust in the system was gone. As the story spread, people online began to pick apart every detail. Surveillance footage from the school became a key point of debate. Authorities released videos showing Kendrick entering the gym on January 10th, but many noticed missing frames and irregular timestamps. Some angles seemed to skip minutes. Others appeared out of sync. Officials said the gaps were due to the school's outdated camera system, which didn't record continuously, only when motion was detected. But the inconsistencies fueled suspicion that footage had been edited or withheld. Other details also raised eyebrows. Blood found on the gym wall was determined not to be Kendrick's. Shoes nearby weren't tested until later. The scene had been disturbed before all photos were taken. Each of these details deepened the public's skepticism. In October 2013, after growing public pressure, the U.S. Department of Justice opened a federal investigation. Agents interviewed dozens of witnesses, reviewed surveillance footage, phone records, and conducted forensic tests. Rumors circulated online that certain classmates, specifically 2 brothers, might have been involved, possibly due to an earlier fight with Kendrick. The family's attorney pushed that theory, but federal prosecutors later said there was no evidence to support it. In 2016, the Department of Justice closed the case, announcing there was insufficient evidence to prove foul play. No charges were filed. Federal officials stated plainly, after extensive review, the evidence does not support federal criminal charges. To many, that was the end of it. But to Kendrick's family, it was just another cover-up. In 2021, after years of silence, the newly elected Lowndes County Sheriff Ashley Polk reopened the investigation. He said his department had received boxes of evidence from federal authorities, over 17 boxes in total, and promised to review everything from scratch. The announcement gave the Johnson family new hope. Over the next year, investigators reviewed thousands of pages of reports, videos, and interviews. In early 2022, the sheriff announced the results. Once again, they found no evidence of foul play. He said, "If I found something that showed this was a murder, I would pursue it, but I didn't." The Johnson family disagreed. They accused the sheriff's office of ignoring or dismissing key facts. And so even after being reopened multiple times, the case remained as divided as ever. As news spread, Kendrick Johnson's story resonated far beyond Georgia. Across social media, activists and celebrities amplified his family's cries for justice. The hashtag #JusticeForKJ trended nationwide. Protesters marched in Valdosta, demanding accountability and transparency. To many, the case became a symbol, not just of one family's tragedy, but of a broader issue: the struggle for racial justice and the belief that the system doesn't always protect everyone equally. Even now, years later, the case is frequently revisited in documentaries, podcasts, and true crime discussions. Each time, it reopens old wounds and reignites the same painful question: what really happened to Kendrick Johnson? Every theory about the case seems to raise more questions than it answers. If Kendrick truly died accidentally, why were there inconsistencies in evidence handling and record keeping? Why was his body found in such a strange position? And how did no one hear or see anything in a busy high school gym? On the other hand, if this was murder, where's the proof? No eyewitnesses, no weapon, no confirmed DNA, no clear video of a struggle. The case sits in a murky space between suspicion and certainty, a mystery built on conflicting reports, missing evidence, and human pain. And through it all, Kendrick's family has never stopped fighting. They filed lawsuits, staged protests, and even traveled across the country to keep his name alive. Their message is simple: our son didn't climb into that mat by himself.